capture that person's up to that person.
Okay.
We have the ability to do the
I would say do that then.
Okay.
Just flank by one or two people.
And that way, those guys could just flank the mic back and forth.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Jay's Breakfast Club. Here we are. I cannot believe we're already in the month of May. That means, no, wait, hold up. April, getting ready to be May. But how exciting is that? We are excited because we just started this endeavor a little less than 4 months ago. And I'm excited to be back with this opportunity yet again to come and talk about the seat at the table. With everything that's going on, the pandemic, and now we're in the throes of vaccination season. See, mommy, I didn't say vasectomy. That's an inside joke, never mind. Long story short, the first one was about race relations. The second one, we were with the chief and we talked to men. The third one was on economic development, and I'm so excited that this evening the chief is back and we'll be talking to business owners. But before we get into all of that, you know, it's really important and even more great when you have sponsors. And so we have a new business that will effectively be opening tomorrow here in the city of Gary. And they are here. I'm going to bring them up as first to say thank you because they are the sponsor of A Seat at the Table. That's right. They have underwritten what we're doing here, giving us the opportunity to do wider outreach, to treat our guests that much better. So after we finish discussing what we're discussing, I feed them really well too. In addition to that, they are here and they are committed to making a change within this community. And without further ado, I'm going to bring up the representatives for our new resident in our community, Horizon Bank.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Kelly. My name is Talithia Barrett, and I am the community lender with Horizon Bank. And I've brought out today with me our branch manager, Maurice Brown. Well, I'm just going to be talking about quickly. Thank you so much for the warm and welcome kind introduction. A few of our products for small businesses. We have grants available, grants for home repairs, but right now, Elevate. We have a grant that businesses can get for up to $20,000. You can give me a call at 219-500-4072, and I'll be sure to make sure you go through the grant application to get that grant here for businesses in Lake County. And I'm going to give the mic over to our branch manager, Maurice.
Hello again. My name is Maurice Brown. I am the branch manager at our new Horizon branch in Gary. Something that I'm passionate about is small business, and to that end, we feature and can offer a micro business account. That account can be set up that has no monthly service fees, which allows you, as a business owner, to have more revenue as you do your daily banking business. Along with that, we act as a partner. We can help you with your merchant services, credit card processing, wires, and acquisitions. You can also reach me at the branch at 219-500-4070. That's 219-500-4070. Thank you.
But before you all go, you have to tell us where the new branch will be because most people don't know yet.
No problem. Our branch is going to be located at 3599 Grant Street. It's right across the street from the village. And so it's a wonderful location. I can't wait for you guys to come out and visit us. So you can come visit us also for home loans, commercial loans, and refi cash outs. We have all of that for you guys at Horizon Bank. So thank you so much for allowing us to sponsor your event.
Thank you so much for sponsoring our event.
I also like to leave by saying we do have a wonderful sweepstakes for a fantastic grill for the community. So if you come out, you could just fill out a sweepstakes entry, and we'll be holding that drawing in the next month. Thank you.
When do you all officially open?
Tomorrow, officially. We are open tomorrow, officially to the entire community. we are having our grand opening at 2 to 4, ribbon cutting. And we're very excited about that. We have about 50 people coming out, and I think we're still open for business.
Absolutely. We wouldn't close for the community. Absolutely.
All right, so hopefully we see you all there for all your business and home mortgage needs. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Okay, so that was exciting. So we're talking about small business, and that's a plus because that's another major business coming to our community. So as you know, a seat at the table is about being the change. The next person I want to introduce before we get into this conversation is someone who reached out to me, and she started asking me questions about how she could better engage with the City of Gary Police utilizing Jay's Breakfast Club. And unbeknownst to her, I had already began planning this initiative. So things don't just happen. They happen justly. So without further ado, just a quick word from my friend, Joy.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Jocelyn, for another opportunity to sit here at the table, having a seat at the table. And as Jocelyn already shared, this is an opportunity. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Joy Holliday, and I am the Executive Director for Violence Prevention for the Mayor's Office. I am also the Executive Director for Gary for Life, and we just launched our Thrive Gary, where youth succeed programming here in the city, and it is specifically for youth and trying to engage with them as well. And so I also have the unique opportunity to serve as the chairman of our Police Reform Commission. And throughout that commission, and as a mission for us as well, is how do we improve with the engagement and the communication with law enforcement and the community. And so as Jocelyn has already stated, this is an absolute great opportunity for us to have candid conversation with different sections of our community. And so tonight we are hosting our business owners here in the city, and we thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to the conversation for tonight. Thank you.
Well, let's get to it. So I have some powerhouses with us again today, and I'm so excited. For those of you all who don't know me, again, my name is Jocelyn Kelly, and I'm also a small business owner. I am the proprietor visionary of Jay's Breakfast Club here in the city of Gary, located at 3669 Broadway, open every day from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., Sundays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and excited to be here at the table. I'm going to ask that each of our business owners introduce yourselves along with your business and identify their biggest safety concern operating a business here in Gary. My biggest concern would be in the event that we get into a situation, there are certain situations where we've had customers come in with bigger than life guns on their hips. How do you nicely tell them we don't really want that in our environment? Our goal is to have a nice family friendly environment. And if it makes me nervous with you toting your big gun coming into our establishment without being confrontational, how will we best handle that? And that's one of my biggest concerns. Okay. I'm going to be Venom. I'll start down here.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Hendricks, and I'm the owner of Coney King Restaurant. It's at 4601 Broadway in Gary, Indiana. As a business owner, I guess the best described concern for me is the customers coming in and out, the loitering, the interaction with people begging and panhandling. We fight that daily with people just constantly, and as quick as we move them, as quick as they come back, you know, so it's a constant day-to-day fight. And I get it, you homeless, you this, you know, whatever your case is, but it becomes irritating to the customers as a repeat offense to constantly, at what point do they really figure out the customer's the most important? And then we get into a situation with the people because they want money, you know what I mean? They want to be able to receive these funds. So we need to come up with a solution to get these people the help that they need and get the customers in and out safely. That's my biggest concern.
Yes, my name is Norman Bailey. I own the Blue Room Lounge in Gary, Indiana, 224 East 16th Avenue. My biggest concern is we have a lot of mentally challenged customers that come in, and my business is a drinking establishment, and I have customers that are going to drink even if they don't eat. And the first thing they want to do is challenge you, and they don't realize how ill they really are, and so we attempt to put them out. But these customers want to stand toe-to-toe with you and argue with you. It would be nice if we could get police presence to come around on a regular basis doing business hours. We have a lot of people that I call them parking lot pimps. They pimping in the parking lot. They'll buy their alcohol from a liquor store and lauder all in the neighborhood, and then my neighbors want me to clean it up. If I go out and try to ask people not to do that, they want to stand up and tell me, look here, brother, you don't own this sidewalk, you don't own the street, you can't tell me what to do, which is correct. But if we had police presence on the regular, just driving around slowly, you know, making people move around, loitering is a big problem, even if it's in your vehicle, and it needs to be addressed. And that's all I have to say at this time.
Good evening. My name's Justin Harris. I am the owner of E-Title and Escrow. We're located at 4431 Broadway, Suite 1B. Our website is www.etitleandescrow. Phone number is 833-384-8531. Again, 833-384-8531. My primary concern is that, as Norman mentioned, we deal with a lot of folks because of where my business is located. They have a lot of mental health challenges. And sometimes we, as the business owner or the responsible person, we have to step in and engage with these people, and it can be dangerous, right? Also, because of the proximity where my business is located at 44th and Broadway, it seems as of late, after a certain hour, it becomes like a dragway, right? A raceway. People are flying down Broadway at high rates of speeds, and which could lead to a lot of issues. We'll just say that. Outside of that, we're also in close proximity to the gas station on 45th and Broadway. Now it's closed, so we haven't had any issues. But in the past, there were issues, and it could have spilled over into the little business district that we do have. And so we're looking to figure out how do we help, right? Not just call on law enforcement to resolve these issues. How can we as business people, what can we do to protect ourselves, protect our clients, help to protect our community? For me, also, is that my business is a little different than the other gentlemen's. I don't have a lot of face-to-face. I can do things electronically. I can set payments electronically. People sign documents electronically. And if someone comes, they come by appointment, right? But I'm still surrounded by retail business owners. And there could be an issue with one of their establishments that could spill over to my business and potentially impact me. And so we're just looking, what I per se, I'll speak for myself, is to learn more about some of the issues that impact those businesses and what can I do and what can we do to help resolve those issues.
I'm gonna pass it down and then we'll go back. Back to you. Yeah, I'll go.
Good evening. My name is Winfred Owens. I'm representing K's Lounge, 4469 Broadway. And my biggest concern is at 3 a.m., actually, when we actually close, the biggest problem is that people sometimes like to the nicer the weather, the more they're going to hang out. And when they hang out, sometimes it could lead to potential problems. I haven't had any yet, but a police presence, you'd be surprised what 10 minutes of a police presence to come and turn on their lights and say everybody needs to go home, that it'll help out and won't nobody get hurt, no gunshots or anything like that of that nature, because a lot of times when people come to the clubs at night, they don't bring the gun in, it's in the car. And so after they can get into it with somebody because of alcohol, but that's the biggest concern. But most important, when the police came, they came with the right attitude at times, and at times sometimes they come with the wrong attitude because it depends on which officer comes and what they think the problem is, as opposed to what they knowing what the problem is. But that's the biggest concern, just when the club is over with, everybody get in their car and go home. Everybody had a good time. Hey, we do it again next week, and then that way it won't be no problems with the police, it won't be no problems with no other clubs, and we all won't get stained from something happening at somebody else's club, and then they blame it on all the clubs in Gary, Indiana. But other than that, I have no complaints.
All right. Those are all very powerful things. We had 5 powerful questions here. And let me just say I appreciate all the questions. I'm going to go over the questions or the concerns listed here one at a time. But I first want to say how important it is for us to have this conversation. I appreciate Jocelyn and Ms. Holliday for organizing this very necessary roundtable between business and law enforcement. The one thing about businesses and public safety is that as business owners, the one thing that you have to have is customers. And in order to have customers, they have to have a very safe environment to go to. They have to have a clean environment that they want to revisit and spend their money in. And they have to feel comfortable there. And all your questions actually hit on those points. To the question about guns in the business, well, Indiana is a very, very gun-friendly state, to say the least. But you have the right to refuse service to anyone based upon things that don't deal with discrimination of a sexual or religious orientation. If you have it listed that you don't want any guns in this facility and someone is here with it, the first thing you should do is judge or gather in your own mind whether you want to approach this person. I think all of us have the awareness to realize if we really want to approach someone in this day and age. And if not, you might have to have a protocol on point to say, well, this is how we'll deal with a customer if we see there's no guns. It could be as simple as saying we don't allow guns here in the businesses listed. Or you can have a policy where they have to be covered, because someone's probably into your business every day wearing a gun and you don't know it. But you have the right to refuse service, but I would definitely have that posted and listed somewhere so that people can see it, just as they do at other larger corporations and businesses, so they will know what the right to refuse services are. Just like some places have no shoes, no shirt, no service, no mask, things like that. And those can be points of contention today. For whatever reason, one of the things that we learned in COVID is no American likes to be told what to do for whatever reason, even if they're for their own public health and for the health of everyone around them. But rules have to be followed, and if you have an issue, you can call us and let us know that you have an issue with a patron. What I would ask that every business owner or person here does, that when it deals with a gun issue, you give great information when you call. What I don't want to do is prime an officer to come in a situation where he thinks the gun is being used in an illegal way when it's not. You know, you can very calmly or very, very, very eloquently tell the dispatcher exactly what you're dealing with, and make sure I want the officer to know that this is not a situation where the gun has been utilized or threatened in any way, but we don't want the person, and if we're asking refusing service to a person, he or she is refusing to leave. And that way the officer can come in, like you said, Winfred, with the right attitude. And I must acknowledge all of you here, but I've definitely got to acknowledge my schoolmate. We both went to the Academy on the Lake, and I'm going to leave it right there. Okay. Academy on the Lake. You know it. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody couldn't go to work. But the right to refuse service is definitely something that you can do, and make sure you call. And I'm going to give that number to call our dispatch. It's 219-660-0000. And the reason I give that number is because that's not necessarily a 911 call, but it can escalate to one. Okay. So calling the 660-0000 first, the non-emergency number, the person's going to pick up the line immediately. If they don't, they're going to call you right back, but they generally pick right up. Except, in high volume times like 4th of July, things like that. They're very busy, so are we. But when you call them, and if the situation does escalate to where it's getting irate or violent, then you call 911. And that's a recall, and that escalates the call to a different level. But again, always tell the dispatcher exactly what you have going on. Another thing I'm going to say is that since we went to central dispatching in Lake County, our dispatchers ask a lot of questions, a lot of necessary questions. They have a script they have to follow according to their SOPs and their standard operating procedures that they have. And that is because some of the dispatchers or some of the call takers are not from this community. They come from everywhere, just like I'm sure all of you have had to hire people from everywhere, so have they. And so when we had a dispatch center in Gary, it was easy to say, I got to fight up at Q's. You know what I'm saying? Or this is Norm. I'm calling. I got problems down here. And the dispatchers probably knew what you were talking about. But you have to know, I got something going on at the King, But now you have to be very descriptive about where it is, what's going on, and give them great information so that the call taker, who is not dispatching the call, you can hear them typing the notes in. And our officers have MDTs. They can read those notes as they get there, as they're coming in. They know what's going on. It's very important for us to spend the time with the dispatcher and let them know. So it might be part of your protocols is to, if you have a situation in the business where if you have more than one person working, if you have a situation, your internal protocol might be, if I'm calling the police, you engage with the person that's doing whatever, and let me go over here and let me continue to talk to the police on the phone or dispatch so that we can give them up-to-date information as they're coming. I hope that answers your question. As far as guns in the state of Indiana, right now there's on the table to making this a constitutional carry state, and we recognize everybody's gun permit. There's nothing that we can do about that, but you do have the right to refuse service. Second one is a big one, loitering and panhandling. That was mentioned by, Ms. James at Coney King, and also all of you mentioned that about that. The one thing that we have to realize when it comes to loitering and panhandling, and I've said this in other meetings, that is a question that is a gray area for us because we can't criminalize homelessness, we can't criminalize mental illness or drug addiction. When we come into the situations, our tools are very limited. If there's no violence associated with it, then it's either a person is trespassing and we ask them to leave, but as you know, they will come right back. Well, one of the things I would challenge your business owners to do is you have to make sure that some of us are complicit and we're inviting it in, because this person will come to your business and panhandle some of the day and you give them a broom or ask them to sweep the trash up or do other things, and it's almost inviting that person in, and then when that person does something you don't want them to do, then some of us are calling to get them off the business. And that is kind of a situation where you kind of cause a situation where we're asking a person to leave, but that was invited. And that doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot at some of our gas stations, I'm going to say that, but I'm going to say that you're going to, you know what I'm saying? They come back.
And I get it, because that's exactly what one of our biggest challenges that we've had here. Huge.
Yeah. Another thing about that is that when you do call about loitering and everything, just let us know that with a description of the person and what they're doing. The activity of panhandling in and of itself is not illegal, someone asking for some help. But the trespassing, if he or she are on your property, that is a problem, and we can ask them to leave. We don't arrest immediately for that. We ask the individual to leave, and then if we get a recall, which takes up our time, then we come back and we can do something a little bit more. But what's important for us to have is a complainant. If you're calling about a person on the property, the person that's calling needs to be a person in authority to say, I'm the on-site manager, I'm the on-person authority, and this person is on our property and he's interrupting the flow of business by panhandling or begging. Many times that person is dealing with mental illness, drug addiction, homelessness, and a lot of times they all three at the same time. And it is a huge issue for this country, and it's a huge issue for this area. A lot of us thought that homelessness and panhandling were different, but they're the same. And a lot of us think that homelessness doesn't really exist in this area, but I'm here to tell you that it really does. And some of it is by circumstance, some of it is by happenstance. People are homeless and mentally ill because their families are not able to deal with some of the issues, or the person doesn't want to be in a situation where they feel like they're being mistreated, so they're outside, or they're sleeping somewhere that's really abandonment, and they come to panhandle, and then sometimes they're feeling a drug addiction. What we need in law enforcement, as well as the business community, is a plan by our governments, whether it's state and local and federal, to deal with the problem of homelessness. I have family that lives in Los Angeles, and I can tell you that whenever I visit them, I don't, no matter what neighborhood you go to, I don't care how wealthy it is, I don't care how poor it is, you will see someone homeless. I don't care if you go to the boardwalk or if you go to Hollywood, you're going to see someone homeless. That's there because it's warm, but it's here too. You probably drive past someone every day that is homeless, that is mentally ill, and is dealing with a drug addiction. I hope that answers your question. But calling us and getting us involved is something that we encourage you to do, but sometimes if you ask them to leave, they will. I don't ask anybody to deal with anyone that's mentally ill. We'll do what we can, but it is something that we deal with all the time, and it is a huge challenge.
They get more and more aggressive, as time goes on,
Yeah.
You come across, and it's not the fact we accept and understand that.
Yep.
It's just when they get more and more aggressive and vulgar and violent toward the customers, that's when it becomes an issue. You know what I mean? So I get it. You need some help, and we don't mind even helping you. And people they share with them, but when they get to feeling entitled, it becomes a problem. Then the customers come in and complain, and that's where you try to understand the options of trying to get these people some help.
Right.
Or if there's some type of outreach program that we could even direct them to get them some help so they can not be homeless or out on the street.
I'm gonna come back to you, but let's talk about that a little bit further. Let's go into a little bit of personal, uncomfortable territory when it comes to dealing with this issue. Most of these people are people within our community and within our families. And I always challenge, or we challenge family members to, you have to take the first step in order for that help to come. It's very difficult for us to come on a scene that someone is dealing with a mental episode. If they're aggressive, that could be one of the triggers that they're maybe off their medication, or they're fiending for some type of drug. They're jonesing for more drugs. And when we come into a situation like that, we need the help of the family members of the community to document and get us the documentation we need to get them that help from a mental care facility or a doctor. It's very difficult for us to do that. Without a threat of violence, without us seeing violence, there's nothing we can do. And taking them to the hospital or the Edgewater will only keep them there for less than 24 hours. I have actually taken someone to the hospital that was having a mental breakdown, that was threatening to hurt themselves. And this is no exaggeration. By the time I finished my paperwork, I'm dating myself because we actually wrote reports then. By the time I wrote all my reports and left the station, I saw that same individual walking down the street. And I was 2 hours into doing all the things I had to do to justify me taking him to the hospital, but it did no good because there was no further justification by the family or any documentations for anything to help us keep him there. And you had a follow-up question.
Is that a policy issue?
It's a issue with us knowing what to do, us seeking help, and that doesn't start with the police. It probably starts with your family physician, with a referral, and documenting a person's, when we're talking about mental illness here now, documenting a person's mental health challenges and getting it documented. Some of these mass shootings we've seen over the course of this year probably had a lot to do with mental illness, but I would dare say that a lot of their mental health issues have not been documented. They happen, but it didn't occur. Like I tell people, if the police come to your home or your business, don't tell me about what happened 3 weeks ago and you didn't call the police, because legally it didn't happen. You have to report it as it goes along. Same thing with dealing with a person or helping a person with a mental health episode. You have to try to document it with your physician or their physician. And as a family member, you can take that power of attorney. And I'm going to say this, it might not be popular. We can certainly help them spend their money. A lot of us become power of attorney over them and their checks. We need to become power. We need to have that same power and that same will to help them get to the place they need to be mentally. You had a question I want to follow up with.
Yeah, so we talked about how to engage, but what are measures that we shouldn't take under those circumstances of business owners that could potentially get us into trouble? I myself had an episode a couple of years ago where one of the neighbors, he was having an episode, yes. And he actually walked up and I pulled up to my car. He's like, well, I heard you on the radio. Right, and it took me a second to realize that there were some issues, and I'm saying maybe 20 years ago I probably would have tried to resolve that myself. I said no, I recognize there's an issue. I should just walk away and go in the building and call law enforcement.
That is an excellent question, and I'm so glad you asked it because I didn't think about that, and I'm glad you asked it because we do need to talk about being safe when we engage with people. It is very difficult for you to have a business or a home that you have worked, sweated in 16, 17 hours a day to build up, and have somebody come and do something at that business that can undermine your ability to sell your products or serve the community in a manner in which you want to serve the community as well as make a living. It's very difficult. So you have to use and exercise a lot of personal judgment about how to engage with people. And I think COVID has taught us a lot of this. We've seen a lot of this throughout the communities and the stores when we go, and I've seen people actually argue with associates at Walmart about wearing a mask, and it just blows my mind. But when those situations arise, we have to learn how to disengage. So if you ask a person something and you see that they're going somewhere else that may be outside of where you're going, disengage immediately and call us. That's when you really need to call us because it can escalate quickly. But monitoring that person, if they come around the business all the time, is something else that can happen, which is going to lead me to something else I'm going to talk about later, but let's mention it now. Having cameras. I can't mention how important it is to have great cameras at all of your businesses so that we can document what happens, not just crime, but situations like that. Cameras have helped us solve and help people from homicides down to person actions. It's very important.
And to that, so I'm not saying that we have any of these issues in the city of Gary.
Absolutely.
But people are hesitant now calling the police because we don't know what we've been shown we don't know what the end result is, especially in the black community. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a question or a comment, because in that situation, my partner was like, no, we're not going to call. And I'm like, well, what if he harms someone, harms his family, harms us? And so, I mean, are there any words of encouragement or just in how that situation would be resolved from a law enforcement standpoint?
That's an excellent question, especially today. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Especially today. Thank you. Especially today, on the day that we got the verdict of the Chauvin trial. A great verdict that was very, very necessary. And we do recognize the community's hesitance to call us. But I will say this, and it's no bragging. You have a great police department here with great demographics. And our police department is very experienced at dealing with all manner of things. And to give that a little bit more light, you have a Gary police officer, former Gary policeman, on every agency in Northwest Indiana, Porter County, Chicago, and every federal agency. We feed everybody because we produce great policemen by dealing with things like that. To be honest with you, in other communities, they may not deal with those situations as often as we do. We just don't deal with homicides and shootings. We deal a lot in this community with issues of mental health issues and drug addiction, where in some communities they may see it in a different light. So we are experienced with that, but of course, use your best judgment. That's also where it goes back to telling the dispatcher exactly what's going on and giving them great information. You had something.
Did you want to address, before you gave it back, Norm's question about the folks outside?
I lost you.
Several business, yeah. Several business.
Yeah, because I don't know.
And so we had several business owners that did mention about patrolling. If you could have more police presence around the businesses, say when it's closing or, just showing their presence, is that something that law enforcement can assist with?
So I think both Norm and Winfred mentioned that. One thing that we have done with the Gary Police Department is, out of necessity, at the end of business, you've seen the cars come. Sometimes they may make contact with you and let you know when you're closing, especially if you have a large crowd, so that we can have their presence out there. However, the Gary Police Department averages about 5,000 calls for service a month. So only 155 of us. That is a lot of calls, and many of them happen at Old Dark 30 when some of you are operating. So while we are out there, we may not be as readily available because it depends on what's going on in the rest of the city. But I will say that when you do have a situation where you have a large crowd or something else, when an on-duty supervisor or the person that may make contact with you, just tell them know what you got going on. And what we're going to try to do, especially as a summer, as we come out of COVID, is make sure that, especially our midnight crew, which you specifically as club owners, continue to make contact with the on-site manager to let us know what's happening. If you have a large crowd, a large event, if you've seen any rowdiness, don't hesitate to call us. A lot of you have security, which is a good thing. Some of you have some off-duty security, so that's a good thing as well. The presence, though, is a difficult question, as you know, because of the cost for service. The only other department in the city, in Lake County, that is just slightly bigger than us is Hammond, but they're half our size, size-wise, and they have 43 more officers. And they only average about 800 or 900 more calls for service a month than we do. So we are a very busy department. It's not an excuse, but I just want to give you a lay of the land.
And to that, so you mentioned there are 155 officers. What can small businesses do to help address those issues, address that particular problem? What can we do? Do we need to reach out to the administration or organize? What do we need to do to help get more officers on the force? As you mentioned, Hammond's half the size
very supportive of our efforts to hire. That's not an issue. We have the authorization to hire. I'm sorry. I thought they could hear me because I'm loud. We have the authorization to hire. We have the resources to hire. Our issue goes back to what you mentioned earlier. Right now, over the past 5 years, since Trayvon Martin on up to George Floyd, law enforcement nationwide has taken a beating. Beyond that, 5 years before that, law enforcement was not a choice that was first in someone's mind, because I don't care what anybody says. Before COVID, we came out one of the best economies we ever had. There are jobs everywhere. Why be the police when you can go deliver packages at Amazon and make great benefits? They can't even get a union in Amazon in Alabama. Why be the police when you can go do something else? And many of our young people, and that's all we're hiring, people under 36 because of the laws with us getting in pension, want to be great things, like my daughter, an entrepreneur. They want to be business owners like you. So being in law enforcement, public safety is less popular with us, but we're always hiring. And we've hired every year for the past 10 years. And we hire everyone that qualifies. And if you know anyone that wants a job with the Gary Police Department, we're taking applications right now. We just did a testing last week. But that is the issue with us increasing our numbers, is making sure that we can get the people in the door to take the test. We just did a testing this weekend, I told you. We had less than 50 candidates. When I came on in the police department a very long time ago, there were hundreds of us, and we had to take the test in several different rooms. There were at least 500 people competing for 12 jobs. It is no longer like that.
Wow, so retention is not an issue?
Retention is an issue when it comes to the very issue I just spoke about, so we're going to go into some other territory. While the Gary Police Department is a great place to learn how to be a police officer, like most urban departments, other suburban departments have better pay and benefits, so other departments cherry pick us. Like I said, we have a Gary policeman on every police department in Northwest Indiana, Porter County, Chicago. And if you're talking about the chief of Griffith, the chief of, the former chief of Maryville, the former chief of Lake Station, the current chief of Sherrville, the former chief of Porter County, they were all Gary policemen, okay? We got someone that's guarding the current president right now. One of our former officers is in the Secret Service. I have people in ATF, FBI. The Gary Police Department is a great place to get a start, but retention, like most police departments of this nature, in urban areas or large areas, have trouble retaining officers because of what I said. Other departments have better paying benefits, and we're cherry picking each other. And because people are not coming into law enforcement as a whole, nationwide, cherry picking has become the way that they're doing, that law enforcement operates all over. I was reading an article just last year that an officer quit the Dallas Police Department the first day at academy to go to the police department right next door to it because they had better pay and benefits. And our millennials and our young generation Zers, like I said, they want to be entrepreneurs and everything else. Most of them don't plan to be on the job more than 5 or 6 years. They go from job to job to job to job, looking for better pay, better benefits. That's just the nature of today's employment market, and we're no different from that. It's very difficult to get a 20-year employee. Norm? Which one out? Y'all confusing me up here.
Chief, I had another issue I wanted to address. We have individuals in, I don't know if they live in the city or they come from suburban areas outside of the city, taggers that's painting our businesses and our buildings all up and down Broadway. I've had several of my businesses tagged. Can you tell me what are we doing to advance addressing that situation?
Sure. The graffiti tagging is a huge issue here in the city of Gary. We have noticed it. We also put I don't want to call it a task force, a group together to photograph them because the tags themselves have identifiers in it. And what we did is with our intelligence gathering division, we looked at those tags on Pinterest and found, because a lot of these taggers put their work out there on sites that they like to show their work. We actually arrested a couple of them and took them to court, and they were fine. But it continues. That's why it's important to have cameras around your business so that we can try to identify them. We can identify the tag, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. We can go back and try to identify those people and catch them in the act or find them later. We've caught a couple in the act, It doesn't take long. They come in at night, very late, and they really scope out what they're doing. In fact, in many of our abandoned structures downtown, it's graffiti all inside of them. You know, and if you go on Pinterest and other sites, you can see a lot of Gary places that have been tagged. It is a huge issue, but cameras would be the best way for us to address it and for people to call. In the instances where we've arrested someone right here in Glen Park, the homeowner and the adjacent business called, and Eastman gave us the information on the person's tag. And we were able to arrest that individual who wasn't from our community, who was from an adjacent community, who said he didn't do it in that community because the buildings there were too nice. That's exactly what he said in court. So we are trying to address it, but that is an issue where we actually need the community's involvement to help with.
Chief, we did have another question that came through one of our social media sites. Could you give the non-emergency number for police contact again, please?
219-660-0000. That is the Lake County Dispatch that dispatches almost all Lake County agencies. That's our non-emergency line, and like I said, they're going to ask a lot of questions, but they're going to be inputting your call as they're inputting the information. And the person that contacts the officer is not the person that you're talking to. That is a separate dispatcher. So don't think that you're wasting time by them talking to you. They're actually two people doing every call. 219-660-0000.
And so we did touch on this point a little bit earlier, I do believe. Justin may have pointed to this particular issue, and it is about what is the perception of law enforcement and the community. So as a business owner, what do you think, or how do you feel about law enforcement's relationship with the business community?
Where'd I go?
Chief, I had another question. Okay, is it any way possible that I'll be considered on a bad list if I call the police too often for rowdy people within my business?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to address that because.
No, we want you to call us.
Okay.
We want you to call us before something happens that could go worse. No, we want you to call us. You can never call us too much. That's not something that we consider as a bad caller when you call us all the time about something going on in your business. As long as you cooperating with us and helping us helps us help the situation. Yes, sir. Where am I going now? Back to you.
Did anyone else have anything to add as far as their relationship with law enforcement?
I don't have much engagement with law enforcement. I know it's a necessity. I'm pretty indifferent, right? When you guys show up, you take care of business, and otherwise, I'm glad when you don't have to come. That means there aren't any problems or issues to resolve, and everything is A-okay. And so if we can keep you away as much as possible, I think that's a benefit. But I guess, I did a little research last night, with the little I could do, and I see some communities now have formed partnerships with small business, between law enforcement and small business. Are there any potential partnership opportunities between the small business community in the city of Gary and law enforcement, right? Or is it, like I know in some communities, officers are encouraged to come into that particular business owner's establishment to, maybe give them free goods or services, they use the restroom, so on and so forth. Do you encourage any of those type of activities? I know you can't go in Norman's, the officers shouldn't be in Norman's at all, but that's another issue, but
we definitely don't have any plans currently of those type of partnerships with small businesses, but that's something that certainly would be a benefit. When we had a larger department in our community policing unit, that was something that was handled by those officers. We've grown a little bit smaller than that now, and so we're a little bit more mobile, and we have to be more active. But I think one of the biggest things that we can do, and we can start it here, and I think it will help us all, is to have good contact information for every business. One of the things we suffer with is if you have a break-in at 2:30 in the morning, we have no idea who to contact.
Right.
And if you have a terrible alarm company, I'm not going to name them, you all know who they are, they will not help us find you when we want to call you to board up your building or to let you know we've secured it the best way we can, but we can't. A lot of us, by us being a large, small city is where I call it, we know people. You know, all of us know law enforcement here. We know someone, and if we give it enough time, we can contact someone. But that's something that we can probably begin here by having good contact information at the police department and in our database that, you know, an officer who doesn't know you, because we're hiring for, like I said, if you're greening from Mars, I want to hire you, you know. If they may come here and not know everybody, we want to be able to have that officer to have the same availability and tools to call, contact a business owner as everyone else, and bringing them in when you have special things so the officers can come in and be a part of the community, not necessarily be seen as only coming when there's a problem.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about the Gary police is when they finally do come, and you know they do come, and when they come to our businesses, Norman, nightclubs and stuff, they come in with the attitude to help. They're not coming with the attitude to disrupt anything that we doing. They coming to actually address the problem that we might have, whether it's loitering, or whether somebody's drunk, or whatever the situation may be. And sometimes we misunderstand the fact that at 2 o'clock in the morning, like he said, they're getting 5,000 calls and it's 143 officers. So at that rate, when one comes to our business, who knows? They might have just left a murder. They could have left anything, and we don't know exactly what situation, mindset sometimes that they might be in. And sometimes we need to just take it easy. And like he said, it's all about communication. And you explain it to them verbatim what happened, what's the problem, and then they can actually address the problem a lot better. Sometimes we think we just call them and they supposed to automatically know what the problem is and what we doing and what they supposed to do, and that's not the case. So I think that as business owners that we just need to communicate more with them, because when they come to my place, the first thing I'm asking, what's their name? You know, hey man, what did I do wrong? If I did anything wrong, tell me what I did so I can address it. Not him, me, because it's my business. And sometimes we think that because it's the police, they can address our issues, and sometimes we can address our own issues because they don't know the customer that we've been serving all night. Me and you may know them. You know what I mean? And so it's like easy to say, man, you had too many, go home, as opposed to sometimes with the police. So I think that that's an issue where we need to build the relationship, because at the end of the day, they got to trust us too, as much as we want to trust them to do their job. And that's just my perception of us getting to know and understand that they got a job to do, and their job is not to hurt us. They come there to help us. Now, some of them come with the wrong attitude, and I'm sure you know that, you know. And another issue that I want to address is that with the COVID, and when they was coming around giving fines to people who stayed open to 12:10 as opposed to 1 o'clock. What are they going to do to address those fines in court? Or you have any idea?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because me and I talked about that as it happened, and that's one of the things we talked about, communication, having a relationship where you called and asked. I really don't know what's going to happen, but I do know the judge is aware of it, and I really can't say what's going to happen, but I would definitely encourage all of us. A ticket is just a summons, and please tell the judge what actually happened, you know, and you deal with it that way. To the question that you had, which was a great idea about having a better partnership with small businesses, because I know all of you guys almost, you know, and that is something that's really been on my mind. I'm thinking that, I know I'm going to put somebody on the spot here, but I think that that might be an initiative that our Office of Violence Prevention and Gary for Life can help us take on as a police department, Ms. Joy Holliday, and remind us to have some type of engagement with partnership with small business and outreach, something that we can do in a positive way. Yeah.
I'm excited about that. Thank you, Chief. Now, we are now post Derek Chauvin and the whole George Floyd. So as part of that initiative, as business owners, there have been days when I actually sat there and I said, if I was in that situation, how would I have handled it? Now, I'm talking about the fake money, the fake $20 bill. Now, I have my course or life experiences is banking, so I know how to handle that situation. But when that young man was in the witness stand and he asked, well, why did you think it was a fake? Why did you lift it up? And he's like, I don't know. There's certain things as business owners, because a lot of us have businesses, but we not necessarily have the business acumen to protect ourselves. So that's one thing that I was going to bring up in terms of that partnership. There are certain things that we'd ask to help us create, a better understanding and maybe our own internal policies to prevent issues that don't necessarily escalate, don't have to be escalated. A lot of the issues that we talked about tonight, from the loiterers, just different things, helping us to best address it, the cameras, all those things help us to be, I can't think of the word, engaged. So it's proactive engagement as opposed to reactive, reacting to things that occur. So I think that partnership will be awesome. Do you want to go to the question? Okay. So as we're coming to the top of the hour, couple things. One, thank each and every one of you. This conversation was well needed. It was very much a lot of information. I think for residents as well as business owners, there was some very pertinent information. Chief, thank you as always. You definitely have to have thick skin to come and take these shots from us, from anybody. You get up every day and you do your job and you pray you do the best possible. But as a business owner, we take a lot of shots as well. And being able to withstand those shots and still want to make a change or be different speaks to the character of a person. So for that, we say thank you. You'll be back with us again on July 21st. But as we begin to, and that's with seniors, so we'll have seniors at the table at that time. But as we begin to wrap up, I would ask everyone at the table, how can we best improve this relationship? We kind of talked about it already, and the chief basically gave the go-ahead for a new initiative, a partnership with small businesses. Thank you. But even from business owners, what can we do? Personally, I've been working tirelessly with our team as we begin to transition into our new location to better prepare us, because we anticipate larger crowds, larger involvement, more service. And we've embarked upon training, customer service training, which also goes to help diffuse situations. If you get what you get what you give. So if you're given an attitude, you're going to invite that attitude. But if you know how to diffuse the situation, so that's my commitment as a business owner in terms of reducing the need to have to engage the police by us monitoring what we do in the environment that we breed. And so that would be my closing. I'm going to pass it on.
Start, yeah. Okay.
Chief, I believe that I consider you as a personal friend, and if the commanders over the officers in the different neighborhoods, if they would come in and introduce themselves and get on a personal basis with the business owners, I think that would be a great benefit to all the small businesses within the city. And that's one thing I ask that you would consider having the commanders to do. Just come in and introduce themselves and try to get on a personal basis with us as yourself.
And so just a suggestion as part of that, as a person or one of the persons at the table that was helping to organize a more formal small business group, we would invite you guys, to participate in our meetings and nights out and some of our events, and so that we can build a relationship. Right? I don't, that's just. I'll leave it at that. I got 2 minutes, so I'm done. Okay.
As the de-escalation part, when you're talking about the counterfeit money, sometimes I received the counterfeit money only to know sometimes at the end of the night that it was counterfeit. But I think that we all need to use common sense, because you're going to allow $20 to stop your business, or eventually it can probably lead to somebody, as George Floyd, getting murdered. And how important is it? Is the $20 more important than you calling the police, or your $20 you say, okay, man, listen, or woman, to say, hey, whatever you did wrong, I'm going to pay for the meal and be done with it, you know? Because other than that, there's no other way that you can solve it. Because if you go to the bank, and from banking, what do? They take the money. 9 times out of 10, you don't get it back. And most people that go to the bank with some kind of counterfeit money, they don't argue with the bank. They don't argue with the bank. The bank take it, bye-bye, it happens. So I think if we just have a better attitude, because money can be passed from all different forms. You don't know where it came from. You can't pinpoint to say that somebody gave it to you, or the chief gave it to me, Norman gave it to me, or I got it from Coney King. You don't know. And so I think that in that term, that we just need to kind of learn from George Floyd experience and not make a really big deal out of it, because a big deal can be a big problem. And so again, I appreciate this time, and all of us. I think too, as far as business owners, that we all need to kind of form some kind of coalition where we all get to know each other. You know, we ain't got no room for nobody to dislike nobody in the business. We all here together. We all we got. And from my perspective, ain't nobody coming in to help us do anything. You know, I don't want to blame it on skin color, but, you know, at the end of the day, we all we got. And if we can't help one another to help each other grow, then Gary ain't going to be nothing but, you know, past tense and what it used to be as opposed to what it can become. And that's my initiative as far as I'm open to help anybody to do anything that I possibly can in order to make our city better, because we deserve it. And, you know, all of us sitting here at the table, we all got some kind of talent that we can all use to help one another if we trust one another. And we need to get over that stuff about, well, I don't like this person, I don't like this business. For what? It's enough for everybody.
What's ironic is that we're on the same block.
Yeah, we're on the same block. So, you know, I clean my block. I clean the alley. I do everything that I can because I don't know who's going to come there. I pick up the paper, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, that's what I want. And so what I want, hopefully it'll rub off and translate to what you want, the neighbor want, and everybody. And then guess what? We got some success on the block, as opposed, because we all going to help one another win. If we don't, if we are our own worst enemies, then who else wins?
All right. Well, yes.
I wanted to address the counterfeit money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I know you get it.
As far as the counterfeit money, what I've done, I've bought different kind of things to detect the counterfeit money, and I've trained my employees that take your time and be observant. See who's giving you, if it's just $1, look at that person, address that person. What I've done is, like you say, I've gotten counterfeit, hundreds, 50s, 20s. You take them to the bank, all you're going to do is fill out a form, and they're going to keep the money. So what we do now is we address the person. Whoever give us that counterfeit money, I'll bar them out. They want to be in the club, so I let them know you're barred out until you pay that money. You can't pay for that drink tonight. You still owe me that money, and we check your money. So you know, if you done bought a lot of people a lot of drinks and done spent that whole $100, you owe me that $100. You can't come back in until you pay me. Believe it or not, it's working, and it's controlling them. They're not doing it anymore. So that's one way. Right, they think twice about it, but you got to have those detectors. I got several detectors, and if my employees let it get past them, okay, well, you owe me now. I got to have mine. Yeah, yes. So that's the best way. You know, that's the hold everybody accountable. Yeah, right. Because I'd rather give you a drink than for you to beat me out of it. You know. Okay.
Well, I just want to thank all you business owners for showing up and asking such great questions and giving the department an opportunity and me an opportunity to address you and engage with you. One of the things that has to happen, as I said, today is an important day for this country, is we are in the processing as a profession is rebuilding trust. And that starts with communicating with one another and talking to each other and realizing some of the things we can address and being honest about what we can't. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and being here. I want to thank Jay's Breakfast Club for sponsoring it. I want to thank Ms. Holliday from Gary for Life and Office of Violence Prevention for actually starting the initiative and getting everything going and keeping us together and keeping me on track with being here, because she always reminds me, you got this on Tuesday. Don't front me off. So I really want to thank her for that and thank everyone that's here for being here, our media people, Chelsea, and our people from the City Media Department. I want to thank you guys for being here, and this young lady who I don't know. But thank you all for coming, and I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to engage with the community and to be a part of this.
Okay, so that's another edition of A Seat at the Table here at Jay's Breakfast Club. Next month is about dreamers. I have not picked a date, so stay tuned. But that's about folks. They say nothing comes to a dreamer but sleep. I'm telling you, I'm a dreamer, and I have had more than... I don't sleep, so I don't know what that's about. But we're going to put some more dreamers at the table and have some... Oh, look at this. Folks that didn't want to come, not coming back. Okay. Well, anyway, we are here every day, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., Jay's Breakfast Club, located at 3669 Broadway, here in the heart of University Park. We've got Coney King. We've got the Blue Room. We've got E-Title. We've got Q's Lounge in the house. Be sure to support. We keep showing up because you guys keep coming back, and that's how we stay in the community. So today we're talking about support. Stay strong by recirculating that dollar. Gary, Indiana is not gone. Gary, Indiana is not hopeless. A Seat at the Table is about being the change. I think this conversation tonight has definitely dropped some seeds that we're going to continue to nurture to be that change. Guys, keep a watch out. Great things happening here in the city of Gary. Uh-oh.
You said Gary is not gone. I got a better term for you. Gary's just a volcano. And it's just waiting to erupt in any time. It might be in my lifetime. It might be in my children's lifetime. But at the end of the day, it's going to erupt one day. And when it does, you know, we'll see. It'll be back to greatness or even greater than what it used to be.
Yes. Why not Gary?
Oh, I get a copy of that.